Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Schroeder, and I am the owner of Schroeder Amplification here in Highland Park, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. I am joined here with Louie Zagoras here.
Greetings.
You may know him from such bands as Rollover, and if you're from the Chicagoland area, it's more than likely you've seen him over the years playing festivals, and both here and nationally. So yeah, we're doing something a little bit different here today in that we're actually live. One-on-one here. Usually it's a split screen, doing it remotely. So this is kind of a treat for me to have a friend within arm's length.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, man. This is great. It's always good to come over and see what you got cooking. You always got something cooking here, Tim. Always something.
Thank you.
Always something being made or something sound or playing me songs through these amazing speakers is always nice. Hearing those little things in the records
comes from a frantic mind, my friend.
So I get it, man.
Well, so for those of you joining me for the first time on one of my live streams, so this is really just kind of I want it to be kind of a fly on the wall kind of perspective for the viewer, and just kind of talking to people that I've known for 10, 15, 20 years or something like that. And of course, when we get together, we always kind of talk in the same small circle of topics. So this is a good way for me to get to know people I've known for a long time. So without further ado, let's begin.
Yeah, let's do it.
So typically, my first questions are usually, talk a little bit about your history with music. What kind of planted the seed? What was your childhood like?
Like a lot of musicians, you hear music, I think, different when you're a musician. And when I was a kid, it was like Pavlov's dog. I mean, if I ate all the vegetables at dinner, and this is a true story, the guitar came out. My dad played guitar. So it's like, eat your food, and then Dad will play the guitar. And then if we ate the vegetables, my dad would come out and play acoustic guitar.
All right.
And, the sound of that guitar filling up the room. And so I saw guitars early on, and heard music early on. And so one day, this is back in the 70s, kids. The 70s, this is the 60s. And one day, probably 1970, because that's when Santana Abraxas came out, I found an 8-track tape. Well, a kid could take an 8-track tape player and stick it in the machine.
Yeah.
You can't even play a CD. 8-tracks were easy for a little kid to put in. And I just saw this exotic picture of this lady on there and these bongos. And I'm like, I'm going to put this in. Well, it was Abraxas.
Right on.
So at 6 years old, I was listening to Abraxas. And that music I just was like a zombie listening to that. I was like, there is something in life that is really good. And it's on this little thing that I put into this box, and that was Santana's music, and the guitar playing, of course, in that record. I didn't know that record is a classic now. Back then it was just something my dad picked up at the store, and that just changed my world, man. That just from then it went on to listening to Michael Jackson, because they were getting promoted back in the early 70s in Chicago like crazy, because that's when they were breaking. So Michael Jackson, Santana, of course, the Beatles came in, and we had Magical Mystery Tour that we had a nanny. She had played us Magical Mystery Tour, and I liked Blue Jay Way, of course, which is that dark third.
That's my favorite.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good,
yeah.
Good. Of course, that dark, where's a fog upon LA, those dark notes. So I would sing that around the house. My mom would look at me like, where's he getting the, the flatted fifth? I was singing a flat fifth. There's a fog up.
And, was she actually thinking, where's he getting the flatted
She probably
fifth?
was a little bit, well, not really, but I'm sure she was wondering why I was singing the Devil's Interval. You know what I mean? Because it was a dark, she'd be like, there's a fog up. I wasn't singing Penny Lane, the Baba Shades, I was singing, so that man, and so we had a babysitter, and she loved the Beatles. And of course, Beatles, man, were, I'm just old enough. I remember the Beatles cartoon, I remember watching the Beatles cartoon. So that was like, music was so much more pumped into people back then, pumped into people's psyche back then than it is now, with a million ways to listen to music,
Yeah.
Back then, I always call it the funnel. The funnel, whatever got in the radio was this little narrow, all the music is out here, but only a little bit of it got to go into the funnel and got to be heard, where now everything gets heard,
Yeah. And things you're exposed to, you hear again and again and again, because you don't have a the world and streaming.
You're right.
Yeah.
And you learn about like bands that were being promoted that just got the money to be promoted. Maybe even the songs weren't that good, but when you play a song enough for somebody, I like music, so I'm eventually going to like it, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, just always loving the guitar sound, you know?
So did you have a lot of, assuming you had a lot of music going on around your household all the time? And
Yeah, a lot of music going on, and my dad would be playing guitar and playing. He liked to play his music, and my mom did too. And then the first thing I started playing was a snare drum. I just got a hold of the snare drum and started beating that. But as I got older, I got a guitar when I was in 6th grade, but it was nylon acoustic, and it just pretty much went straight upstairs into the closet.
Yeah.
I just didn't care about it at all. It's like, it's a nylon. I mean, I'm an electric guitar player. I always say that. I like acoustics, but I'm an electric guitar. The electric guitar is where the fun is, you know.
Was there something that kind of you found exciting and visceral about hitting a drum? I mean,
oh yeah,
kid, I mean,
it was. Oh yeah.
Good?
Well, I could always find the one. You know, I could always find the one. Just hitting it. I used to take these headphones and put them on and crank up the Michael Jackson and just hit the snare on the one. And of course, I thought I sounded really good, but I didn't realize that my family couldn't hear. All they heard was bat, bat, bat. You know. But I think like so many musicians have that story of, you know, knowing when, you know, you hear something and you like it. Like I remember the first time I heard the song Dire Maker and it had that middle part. When I read the letter you wrote me, it made me sad. And I liked that first chord as a kid. Well, that was A minor. So I remembered like not knowing what A minor was, but I liked the sound of that chord. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of music, you know. My brother played music. My brother had records, so I'm a kid brother, so you have your older brother playing music all the time. You listen to all that, you know.
Yeah. Well, for me, you know, when I first picked up an instrument, it was my mom's acoustic guitar, and it was a big dreadnought. And you know, I was a huge music fan, but I had no idea how to play. You know,
yeah.
But, I mean, there was just something about just going, you know, breaking across the strings and a big dreadnought and feeling that vibrate. I mean,
what kind of guitar was it?
It was very visceral. It's a Washburn D28.
Okay. Classic.
Kind of back from the day. So we still have that in the family.
Those are
still has a BB gun hole on the top.
Well, you know, those are
from
classic,
somebody. I don't.
Those are classic guitars. What's one of Eric Clapton's first guitars? I read an interview. He said it was a Washburn.
Yeah.
So he looked at it and said Washburn. You know.
Right on.
So
did you get into your musical evolution from the snare drum?
Yeah, from the snare drum. So then, like I think 7th grade, I used to go with my dad to his guitar lessons. And one day the girl came down and said, "Hey, we have an opening for electric guitar class the same time as your dad." So I looked at my dad. He said, "Sign me up." And I got a black Hohner Les Paul, which I wish I still had because it was a damn good guitar.
Yeah,
it was a, you know. And so I had a black Hohner Les Paul. Man, that was it. Man, I was so happy. You know, I just loved it. Like I said, I want to have it again because it's, you know, it's my childhood. You know.
Yeah.
And I had a Marlboro amp. Remember the
Marlboros?
I
do. Yeah.
Little reverb on there, you know, flipped me out,
man.
Yeah. And then went through a series of totally terrible amplifiers because I didn't know. I mean, at one point I bought two Wilder 812 PA speakers,
wow,
and an Ampeg head, PA head.
Oh,
sorry,
jeez.
spit. And you know, that was some terrible tone. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to move this. I mean, it was just gigantic, you know. So thank God I think I got rid of that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But my first guitar amp was a Randall RB60 bass amp that my sister had been playing bass, and I took it and I realized if I turned the drive or if I turned the gain and the master volume, I could get distortion out of it, you know.
All right. So kind of a Partridge Family situation.
Yeah,
you had your sister playing the bass and
my sister playing the bass, brother playing guitar and bass and piano. We all played piano.
Right on.
You know, so yeah, a lot of music, man.
All right. Did you have a teacher come to the house, that kind of thing?
We did, but I never wanted to take the piano lessons because I just learned on my own. I would just go and listen to, like, you know, the end part of Layla or Let It Be and just try to transfer it, which, you know, took a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my sister on there.
Mm-hmm.
Career to dad's guitar teaching. You offered lessons while you were waiting. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Hey, sis.
Yeah, so did your friends listen to music and that kind of stuff? And was it
so my friends listened to music, but I was always the one who would, you know, had to listen to music longer than anybody else. I was always the guy who was obsessed with it, where people were kind of you know, weren't as obsessed with me as I was about music. You know, I always wanted to jam longer. my friends used to come. I could come for an hour, and when they left, I would just get so bummed because I just wanted to play. Just like so many musicians, all I want to do is play.
Yeah.
I was reading an interesting article about Jerry Garcia recently, and he was saying the same thing. They said Jerry just wanted to play. They said he just wanted to play no matter what. He always had his guitar ready, and even backstage, they said he'd be playing. Especially in the early days,
Yeah, I bet.
So, like a lot of musicians, we all want to play.
I had Hendrix live at Winterland, and I would listen to Red House on that thing. My friends were so sick and tired of, let's listen to it again. I wore out a CD. It was.
I know that version. That's incredible.
Oh my God, just thousands and thousands of times, and still to this day, I listen to it and I just get goosebumps.
Well, you probably didn't realize the guitar was tuned down.
Yeah,
and because that was the sound. Like I didn't I remember learning the Hendrix stuff, and I was like, wait a second, this ain't G. This is F G flat. How can I? Oh, maybe the But yeah, well, he's doing all that thumb picking on. He's picking with his thumb in that Red House, and oh my God, and Jimmy's the master of the Never trust anybody who doesn't like Hendrix a lot. That's what I say. I'm a little wary. If you don't like Jimmy, I'm a little wary of you. Sorry to tell you, guys.
Oh. So how did you get into kind of band play and that kind of stuff?
Well, then bands were like
serious.
That's a good question. I was playing my first gigs. I just had a picture of my first gig when I was like 15, and by then I had my RB60 amp that I took from my sister. Thank you, sis. And I had an RB60 that I had, and I had a Bullfrog 112 cabinet. I figured out one day, hey, there's a jack on the back. I can plug 2 speakers in, and then I could spread them apart. And then I was like, then I got a wah-wah. Actually, my cousin Paul gave me a wah-wah when I was like 13 before I even played that much. I didn't even know what to do with it. I still have it. And he gave me a Maestro fuzz face, which I so wish I had. I think I threw it away because the top, the rubber piece was broken.
Yeah.
Oh God, I could kill it. But so band started playing in a band called Horizon with the local keyboard player in town, my friend Dave Steck on drums, my friend John Hart, and then from there moved into my band in high school called Broken Water, which is with Howie, Tracy Hasselbring. And we are actually playing Sunday in Lake Forest for the Croya youth organization for the 40th anniversary. So we started playing around town, basements. It's like, I think that rock and roll thrives with parents with a basement.
Yeah.
And you look at all the bands.
No doubt. You're absolutely right.
It does. You got to have it. It's like, you look at all the bands, like the Allman Brothers had the big house. Well, they were in there, they rented this house. They could jam all the time. That's how bands get good. And my parents were just cool. We had what was called Rock World in my basement, where we always had a drum set, had a PA set up all the time, had extra guitar amps for people, bass amps. So you could just come over to Rock World. You didn't even need, if you forgot your instrument, we had basses. And that helps, man. That's
awesome.
That's how you cut your teeth. And so here's the funny story on that is one day my mom had these guys to look at the windows over, and all the seals in our house the window seals were broken. The guy goes, "Do you have musicians here?" My mom goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Music blasts out the window seals." So all of our window seals in our house were blown out from the pressure of the volume. I don't think my mom was too happy with that. But she looked the other way. She was always a supporter of my music. So
you bring up basements and Bullfrog amplifiers. I had a friend who had a basement similar to that. He was the jam house.
Yeah,
and he had this massive Bullfrog, bass bottom.
Right.
And we had to nail the stairs back together on a regular basis. I mean, like the stairs would just vibrate and pull the nails out.
Well, because I think they sold them at the music gallery, the Bullfrogs. That's what it was. They had them at music gallery. And so I went in and they talked to me, "You need a 112 extension, kid." I'm like, all right.
Right on.
Bullfrog's a good brand, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've never heard of it in my
life.
life.
Like the name.
Oh, yeah. I always liked the name. Yeah.
Sound big and loud.
I didn't know I should get Fender or whatever to get. As long as it was cool.
So would your dad jam with you as well?
My dad would jam with me as well. Yeah, I do gigs with my dad back when I was first starting guitar. Like we did a gig at the Rex or the local theater in our town, and we played like Ramble Man and a few songs. And I didn't know the major scale then, so I did a blues minor solo over a major scale. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, jazz.
Yeah, it was jazz. Someone's asking about the giant speaker behind you there. Oh, that's the PA speaker.
That's an Eggleston Works Viginti loudspeaker. There's a pair of them. I can't see it on the other side, but it's a stereo speaker. I sell stereo gear here, so if you're in the Highland Park area, you're welcome to give me a call and come on by to listen to the Payegas or Eggleston Works or whatever else I have around. So
I've heard them. It's Sonic Candy for sure.
Yeah.
It's just like,
woo! People cannot believe it.
Oh,
I can't believe it. I've had them for 1.5 years, and I just can't believe it.
It's astonishing. Man.
Also, we have another question here from Frank Pica.
Hey, Frank.
How did you get the opener for Joe Satriani, and what do you recall about the experience?
Sure.
Show?
So as we were playing for years and years, we put out a record, and I had Brad Wood produce the record, who my dad was doing some legal work for, and my dad said, well, I'll do this work and give my son some studio time, which ended up being fantastic. So Brad did this record for us. Great engineer, Brad. He really had a lot of vision. Got a song on the radio.
Was this with Rollover?
With Rollover, yeah. I'd Rollover by then. We got a song on the radio, and one day someone from Bill Graham was driving around town. They heard it. They said, who's this band? Yada, yada, yada. Made a long story short, we ended up getting signed with Bill Graham Management in 1994, and they managed Joe Satriani, the Neville Brothers, the Gin Blossoms. And they said, kids, you're going on tour with Joe Satriani. And I just had an anxiety attack. I'm like, well, no, I'm not. I can't. No, I'm not that kind of guitar player. And they said, well, no, we know you're a rock guitar player with singing. He wants that for his show. He wants singing, a band that has vocals and guitar, and then because Joe's mainly instrumental. Yeah. Well, shit, the first gig we did was Michigan at the Music Center in Detroit. And I was like, it was one of the first big gigs that I had done, especially opening for Joe. It's like, are we going to get killed here? I mean, it's like people like this. Come on, kid. But I guess we did okay. And I was really nervous on stage. And I said, well, it's not that bad. There's not that many people. And I was looking at the first balcony, and I was like, it's not that bad. And then, like, after 3 songs, I looked up, and there was the second balcony and the third. And I was like, oh, no, I am nervous. But it was a great time. Joe Satriani is a really nice guy. Yeah, I know you would work with him too. Yeah. Such a nice, he couldn't have made me feel better, and was showing me pedals, and just such a nice guy to work with. And we did that first Crystal Planet tour for like a month on the road. That was my first time being on the road, and it was an absolute blast. And by the end of the tour, Joe was inviting us to come up and jam with him. That's the kind of guy he is. And, and I'm not near a guitar player like him. I can't play like that, but he understood that we all have something to give musically. Yeah. And started inviting us up on stage to do the encore. There's a couple of videos up on YouTube of me playing with Joe. I think there's a Boston show, and then there's the Chicago show that we did. And, someone of that caliber to give someone, like me a little break was really nice. Yeah. And that tour led to other tours. That's how we got to tour with the Allman Brothers and tour with so many great bands, Johnny Winter, Hot Tuna, just from having that experience, getting out there on the road. Every night I would sit by the side of the stage. My band would be back there, party. Or they would watch you, but I would watch. I said, this is my chance to learn. What is Joe doing in his set? How is he talking to the crowd? Yeah. When I opened for the Allman Brothers, it was school. It was like I'd go sit on the side of the stage. How is Greg communicating? How is Dickie? Unfortunately, the '94 tour with the Allman Brothers, they were in bad shape. That was a sad thing because they were just going through a lot of trouble, a lot of drug trouble, and they were my idols, man. So. But we'd watch every night and try to learn, Yeah. The pacing of the show, how much did they talk? What did they say? They always kind of said the same thing. So I started working on that, having a quick thing to say to wherever you were, and just, trying to learn. Yeah, trying to learn from the best, Yeah. And that was a really great experience being signed with Bill Graham. They just took such good care of us and gave us so many opportunities. And the music business back then, they were signing a French fry, It's like, can this thing sing? I think we'll sign you, and it was just a great time, kind of before the internet, a great thing, but kind of really took a bite out of all that, again, because this were bands that could get into the funnel. I was a lucky enough musician that one of my songs got into the funnel, like I said before, which is the narrow amount of places that were playing music back then, right? And if you weren't on the radio, you weren't going to get heard because there was no internet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean that I was out in San Francisco working in like the early 2000s and stuff, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing when the music business was still in full
Oh,
swing
God.
on that level.
Right?
And I mean,
Oh.
working with those people, and I mean it was tremendous, and
Yeah, there was money in the music business
Yeah.
back then. There was money. There was, touring. There was opportunities. Like you open for bands. That's gone away. And people will ask me, how'd you get to open for all those bands? Well, back then, I had a band in Chicago, and from 1990 on, the Park West, Metro, Joe Shanahan, thank you, Joe. Always believed in us. Joe was a great man.
Yeah.
And Joe would give it, you're going to open for this band. And we played Biddy Mulligan's opening up for Gatemouth Brown and opening for the Atlanta Rhythm section.
Yeah.
And you got to play with all these bands and learn, You learn not to put your amp on stage during their sound check. I remember I did that Atlanta Rhythm section. I put my amp in the could take your amp off the stage, reverberating this big club. You're like, sorry, sir. I'll take my amp off. Don't kill me. But you learned that shit,
Absolutely, yeah.
And we got to open for Buddy Guy and got to open for all the guitar players. Man, like I said, Gatemouth, just so many different guitar. And now that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Bands don't have an opening band. Now, back in the day, I always say, they wanted as much music as possible because if you got to the gig at 7, they wanted there to be music.
Yeah.
Nowadays, because of these things, these phones, people just want to get there and they can watch their opening band on their phone, but they just want to see that band. And I think it's a shame because you have a lot of bands that don't have the chance to do stuff like that anymore.
Absolutely. We had a conversation similar to this in this vein with one of my last guests when we were talking about LPs and how. Because you didn't want to get up, you had
the long play,
Tom Collins,
yeah.
You didn't want to get up. I mean, you discovered all of these songs that you would just fast forward by,
right?
And that's where some of my favorite songs are the B-sides of the weird things that
I know
I never would have heard if it weren't for long playing records or sheer laziness on my part.
Yeah,
it's been my friend.
Well, and it's weird. The long play is gone. I just was reading an article with Ringo Starr, and he was putting out an album. He said it's only 5 songs. He said, Ringo, why? And he said, because that's what you do these days. I thought if Ringo Starr is saying that, then they had one more song they wanted to squeeze on. He's like, all right, we'll make it 6. But I think that's here to stay. Nobody has the attention span, including myself. After this thing has zapped my brain, to be able to listen to a long play record now, right?
Sure.
I mean, you just let's skip it. Let me hear that.
I will say that all of my customers still like them.
Good.
Hence my turntable collection and it's,
I mean, for people our age and stuff, people over 45, I think
a lot of my new customers are younger guys, and it's
they're
thrilling. It's absolutely thrilling. They're getting they're buying nice turntables from me, and I mean things in entry level budget, and it's great for me to see young people engage and be so excited.
Oh, that's good to know.
I mean, I deal with guys like you who are just like all the time, just
right.
How you are,
right.
And the young guys that come in and they're just so excited and full of life and enthusiasm, and it's like they're discovering things for the first time. I love working with younger cats.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I love hearing that. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great because I mean, there's some magic there, kids, and and the analog that's coming back today gets rid of the sonic holes.
Oh, it's incredible.
Like a lot of people don't realize that a CD is similar to a fluorescent light. There's sonic holes in a CD. So as you're listening, I remember when I first got CDs, I go, I'm going to listen to my favorite record. And I couldn't listen as long because it's a little more fatiguing to your ear. I think the CDs,
Yeah.
I think the bit would have to be 512 bit for it to be the same sonic quality as analog, which is constant sound. I'm telling Tim that.
We can do
Tim
a little,
invented
we
that
can do
stuff.
A little AB afterwards.
Yeah, you invented that stuff, I'm sure. But
So tell me a little bit about Rollover. I mean, obviously you've done tons of. So tell me about the band members and kind of how that gelled.
So I went on a vacation. Got away and I started writing all these band names down. And I just wrote Rollover down. I just kind of liked the way it looked. I was a young lad. I don't know if I'd use that name nowadays, but I was a young lad. And I go, that looks kind of solid. Rollover, Rollover Beethoven, whatever. I liked the name of it. Put together a band with my friend Doug Falls and my friend Blair, who's in my band still to this day. And we started this band, and it started actually, I was playing with another band called The Nerve, which was a great band, and I should have just been in both, looking back at it. But one night, the keyboard player and the guitar player got deathly ill on stage after one song. They're just like, ooh, and I'm like, shit. So it's just me, the drummer, and the bass player. And a whole room full of people. This is at a place called At the Tracks back in the day in the city. And a whole giant room. People are going, make show, come on, kid.
Yeah.
So I went, Killing Floor, Hendrix. We kind of were doing this kind of heavy power trio stuff. You know, Red House, let's do some Cream. And it went over really good. And a little bell went off in my head. This kind of guitar stuff is like, not that my other band didn't have guitar stuff. The other band was more like kind of a Birds band. We were like, you know, kind of doing more kind of country folk rock. And a little bell went off my head to start a new band, and, you know, have you know, a little bit more heavy wah-wah driven, you know, stuff that I grew up with, songs. And, you know, we did a record, and we got, you know, we just got lucky. You know, we just got lucky because XRT picked up the song, and they just kind of threw it on almost just as an afterthought and see how the kids do. And the good thing is we did well. It got a great call in, and that kind of gave me a career overnight. I mean, I had no idea about the music business. I didn't know anything. Like, we played Shuba's after we were on the radio for a week, and there was all these people there. And I tried to get into the front. They said, hey, man, where you going, dude? I said, well, I'm with the band. No, you're not. Yeah, I'm with the band. I got to get through. I said, what are all these people doing here? I was so naive. And we got on stage, and all these people came in, and when we played 4 songs, we played Shipwreck. And the place cleared out. And I went, well, what happened there? A couple months later, we did another gig, and we were playing in the city for something. I forget what it was, in 94. Terry Hemmert was there. And Terry's got so much knowledge. And she said, can I see your set list? And I said, yeah. And she said, she saw Shipwreck. She said, I see you have it 4th. Why do you have it 4th? And I said, well, it's just because I just want to. She's just kind of politely said to me, you know, Louie, a lot of bands, when they have their first song on the radio, they play it towards the end. And I'm like, so naive. I'm like, why, Terry? She's like, because people will stay for the song. And I'm like, oh, well, that day it got scratched out of 4 and put it 10. Yeah. The second to last time, or the last song. Yeah. So again, learning along the way. Always be open in your mind to taking stuff in. And I want to thank you, Terry, for teaching me that.
We are so lucky to have WXRT in Chicago. And for those who don't have WXRT, not from the Chicagoland area, I mean, I remember, you know, geez, I don't know, in like 95 or something like that, just listening, you could hear like Adrian Blue and like talking, and like, you know, these amazing things that you would never hear anywhere else for the most part, you know, I mean, just, and they still play that stuff, and they're a huge champion of Chicago bands. They're a big radio station. They're still very proud of being a Chicago institution.
They broke my band and other. My band would have been nothing without radio play. I mean, I didn't. Wilco is huge. They started believing in them, and I didn't realize the importance of radio play when I was young. I mean, I didn't realize that radio play is like doing a gig for everybody at their office, because radio comes into your. I had no idea how far-reaching radio would be until we started playing. Before radio, 19 people and a dog would be at my show. After radio, 350 people at my show.
2 dogs.
And 2 dogs. Yeah. Now it's back to 19 people and 2 dogs. You know?
At least you retained a dog.
At least I got 1 dog still. Yeah, I still got dogs as fans. Yeah.
Right on. So so you had Rollover going on. So you talked about Joe Satriani.
Yeah.
So how about kind of developing your sound? I mean, where did you
and really, you know, even tone wise back then, I had a Boogie Mark II-C, which was that unique amp at the top of the mark, and I had no idea that it was that special of an amp, but that gave me this unique sound that wasn't a Fender's and it wasn't a Marshall. It was just kind of in between, this beautiful way. And I was always really into tone back then, although I didn't know how to take care of my guitars, but because I realized that, you know, any guitar player is only as good as you got to have your tone. That's your fingerprint, you know. And you know, and making the sound, taking the sound really from like a band that I really like was Derek and the Dominoes. I like this live record that they did back in the day, Clappers. I just like the organ, the bass, drums, and guitar, and that's what Rollover is. I kind of stole that. You want to stole it like everybody does that. I mean, but I took that sound and really wanted to kind of take that sound and go to the next level with it, you know, because that record was such a big influence on me, and we still played a lot of that stuff from that record. So kind of developing that, but also songwriting. You know, I knew that you have to have something that somebody can hum. You can't. I always think you got to have something that's not too complicated. It's not too hard, you know, or overwritten, which I can certainly overwrite any song. If you need me to overwrite your song, I can add extra bridges you won't need. But learning how to, you know, write. And I had a good mentor. There was a guy in Highland Park here named Roy Marinell, who was a co-writer of Werewolves of London, Excitable Boy. He wrote a lot of the hits with Warren Zevon, and he really taught me about songwriting, and took me to places and taught me, you know, how to write a good song, how to put good words in it, and would take me out to California and meet, you know, we'd go hang out at Jackson Brown's studio, and Andrew Gold, who was a total great guitar player for Linda Ronstadt, who I'll never forget. He had every guitar you ever wanted on a stand in his studio, every guitar and every amp. Yep. I was like, can I touch this one, Andrew? But anyhow, just getting exposed to good writers, and Roy knew Linda Ronstadt's band, and, you know, getting to play with people like that as a young kid, I had to up my game. You know, like they put, you know, here, kid, play a slide. And I remember doing a slide track on this thing and going, well, I want to redo it. A couple of these guys like, hey, dude, it's just, this is first take around here, kid. That's what your solo is. And I learned, man, you better get up there and hit it, you know. Yep. And they taught me, you know, and I had some solos that weren't very good, but I learned, you know, learned a lot about songwriting. And then, so with getting the sound of Rollover, I was always very aware of that. Roy wrote some songs on the first record with me. He wrote a song called Everything Keeps Rolling. Hard times in country, hard times downtown. The drought's killing the farmers, but the Dow Jones is down. Yeah. S&Ls are folding, and insurance money just ain't there. And just like Las Vegas, everything keeps rolling. So it's like, he was a great lyricist who wrote all those lyrics. So he helped me lyrically, and you know, it was just a great asset to have someone like that. You know, unfortunately, Roy passed away several years ago, but to find someone like that was cool too. Like, you know, tell me about David Crosby. You know, you had all these stories about everybody. He used to room with Linda Ronstadt. So as a young rock guy, I wanted to hear this shit, you know? Yeah.
Well, I listened to the first Rollover album last night. Okay. And man, your sound is solid. I mean, it's punchy, it's thick, but it sits in the pocket. I mean, it's the wog going full blast. Yeah, well, it's a thick, creamy sound though. I mean, good. Yeah, I mean, I was not expecting that. I haven't heard that record in a while,
good.
You know?
Yeah, you know, Brad Wood did a great job. Brad, thank you. Brad really had a great vision of things back then. He was recording all the bands back then. He was recording Veruca Salt, other bands that were big back in the day. Anyhow, he just had an ear for it. And but yeah, we you know, and that was all done on analog, you know. And yeah, we really, you know, everything just kind of fell together on that record. It's just kind of a, you know, it's like your first record really is just a demo, but you know. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I was real proud. I'm still real proud of that record. It's kind of, you know, still gets a lot of airplay, and you know, the songs got used for television shows, and Aaron Spelling used it, and Nash Bridges used one of the songs. So that was cool here, you know, getting stories like I guess you're
getting royalties.
I'm getting royalties, right? Yay, royalties, yes.
Something else you don't get anymore these days.
I know. Oh my God, I know. So you know, I was on Nash Bridges, you know, back then. You got a decent chunk of change. I had a song used on the Rachel Ray show about 5 years ago, and I got yelled at by the music promoter that we're not paying you crap, kid. Get lost, and if you keep calling me, I'm going to take this artist off of NBC. And I just went, goodbye, thank you. But yeah, things have changed, you know. But you know, that was nice. Yeah, getting all of a sudden you're getting royalties on songs, and you know, I you know. It's so different now. It's so different. You know? It's just changed.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of good in the world these days, though, as well. I mean,
there is
people making, I mean, you know, people making records in their in their apartment or whatever that sound as good as any of the old rock records. I mean, with the $2,000 budget and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's tremendous. What you don't get is the camaraderie, and you don't get the being on stage all the time. You don't get the learning experiences like you mentioned. But there's the, I would say the
average person can record better now than they should.
But the artistry is still excellent. I mean, people come up with incredibly creative things these days that never would have made it back in the olden days.
I know,
and
with
the oil lamps.
And that's because, again, the way music used to be funneled into one radio station back then. Now it's all over the place. I read an interesting article with Jimmy Page, and he said, if Led Zeppelin put out one of our records today, he said it'd be like dropping a pebble in the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was kind of like, yeah, probably, because it might just get lost in all the stuff, And I try to explain that to people. It's kind of like the episode, I'm going off the tangent here, but the last episode of MASH was the most watched TV show in history, and it'll never be done again because not everybody watches the same 4 channels anymore.
Yeah.
And they said that that'll never happen again because even if you're on NBC News now or whatever TV, it just doesn't reach that many people like it used to. So everything's but there's still so much good music out there. I mean, I hear musicians and guitar players are just blowing me away. I'm like, God, this guy. But it's hard to get out there now. It's just not the same. You can get out there at a smaller level, but to get to that big level is, I don't know how you do it.
I have a lot of players who work in Nashville, and they say on a Tuesday evening, at like 5:30, you can go to any bar and you sit down. Excuse me, and the guitar player is the best thing you've ever heard.
Oh yeah,
just like what is this?
Yeah,
it's like they're just up there lit.
Oh, they're just ripping.
Yeah,
they're just doing. It's kind of like just the way even like skateboarding came along back in the day. I was just on a skateboard riding and doing my little tricks, and nowadays guys are doing triple backflips. Yeah, I remember being in Nashville one time. And some country guy called me up on stage, and I knew a few country riffs, and I just got my ass handed to me by this guy, and I just went, "Dude, don't get up on stage in Nashville." Yeah, because there's a certain way to play blues in Chicago that we know how to play our blues in Chicago. Yeah. All right, but there's also a way to play southern boogie guitar in Nashville that is a whole lot of riffs that I didn't have the bag. I didn't have the bag for.
Yeah, man.
And it's great to see how there's so many great guitar players. I mean. And again, there's a guy I saw on YouTube today. He's like better than Stevie Ray Vaughan, but again, he can't get arrested. Yeah. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
He was doing some demos for Fender. Hey, Lenny. Lenny's out there. Hey, buddy. Yeah. Hey, Sister Morrow. My sister's out there. Oh, awesome.
So let's talk about a little bit about what you're doing these days. I mean, you're a tremendous educator these days.
Yeah,
as well as having your gigging career and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, rolling. But it seems like you're the guy who is bringing it to the kids of Highland Park and Lake Forest and etc. and Chicago area, and teaching them and telling them these stories and all that, which is so important. Handing these stories down to future generations.
Thanks, Tim. You're right. I mean, handing them down to future generations, telling people. What playing is about, how to play, little tricks to play, and just getting people up and running, and I love it because I get to see, I just love getting to see, people get a kick out of music, and I'm teaching some really talented kids, and the kids today, they're just coming up, they're just such fast learners. They're just getting better and better, and I love giving back, And, I was lucky. I had a good teacher. Roger Adler was my teacher. Roger passed a few years ago. And he just really, really, really was one of the people that changed my life as a guitar player. I think as a guitar player, being a good person is important for your guitar playing. There's a lot more that goes into guitar playing than just being a good player. There's a lot of stuff you can do with the notes.
The humility of Joe Satriani.
The humility of Joe Satriani, exactly.
Yeah.
Knowing
that changes lives.
Right. Knowing your place and not feeling bad. One thing I try to say, there's a lot of guitar players that would never feel bad because you can't play like this guy. Everyone has something unique to give. Because me, like I said, when I was going through with Satriani, I flipped out because I'm not that kind of guitar player. I could never be. But knowing that everyone has something individual to give is cool.
But he can't do Louie either.
Right, we can't. Right. So, and Joe is very nice. He always liked my songs. That made me feel good. Someone like him, in fact, he gave me a beautiful quote for my solo record. saying I had a great collection of songs, and I said, "Can I use that quote?" And Joe was nice enough to let me use that quote, which really helped.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else. I forget. But yeah, really helped. Just my career, and that's somebody I got to go tune in with. I had some health issues years ago. I was diagnosed with celiac, so I wasn't going out much for a while. I didn't know why. I just didn't have any energy to go out. But now that I'm better, I got to get out and see him because he's someone that was a big influence on me. And
sure. So speaking about your celiac, you had mentioned that that really kind of threw a wrench in your gears with rollover and kind of your trajectory.
It did
with RCA and that kind of
yeah.
thing. And
it did. It's like I didn't know back then. I used to, like when we were doing the Horde tour we were touring with the Allman Brothers, Blues Traveler, Sheryl Crow. I would be sleeping behind some road cases in the dressing room and hiding because I didn't want the guys to see how tired I was. I didn't know why I was tired. I just, geez, well, I had celiac disease, and celiac really can whack you out and just drain your energy. So for years, I was just struggling with this thing. I didn't know what was going on health-wise. So I'm a real advocate for good health these days, too. And also, when I got off of gluten and stuff like that, when you have gluten, when you have problems, you have something called brain fog. And even my playing was going down because I just wasn't hearing my notes right. I just wasn't focused. And when I got back to being eating a healthier life, just eating healthier, all my ideas came back musically. But for years there, I can't even watch some of the videos because I have my own standard I hold myself to that I want to see myself playing at, and I felt like I was short of the mark. And your health is so important to being a good musician too. It really is. It's I came from whiskey and booze in the dressing room to nothing but water, to nothing but we're being healthier these days,
Well, I know so many musicians who are the Joe Satriani types, Steve Vai types. They're not hitting the bottle.
No.
The show's over, they hightail it to their dressing room or their hotel room, and they practice.
Yeah, because that's what it takes. Yeah, the days of like back in the 70s and stuff, there wasn't as many videotapes on people. It was just a party,
Yeah.
But as time's gone on, that's completely changed. And you got to be ready to go. For a guitar player today, man, you got to be in tip-top shape and playing at great levels at all time. And there's too many guys that are out there doing it these days.
Yeah.
The competition it's always been incredible. But I noticed that after I remember Guitar Center came out, I think it was the late 80s, that guitar became such more of a thing. Like in the 70s, if you play guitar, there's only 2 guys in your whole school that play guitar. Where nowadays guitar is like after school sports, you know. So you better be practicing your notes, and love what you're doing. If you love it, you'll put up with all the other stuff that goes along with the music business,
Yeah, no doubt.
You'll go, okay, yeah. Just like even when I was reading the article about Jerry Garcia again, he was saying, he just wanted to hurry up and set up my amp so I can plug in. He just wanted to damn play, you know?
Yep, and it showed.
And I just wish there was more clubs in Chicago that were kind of doing. And there's clubs in Chicago, but it's really dwindled.
Yeah,
it's really dwindled.
Well, COVID has wiped out a lot.
COVID has been terrible, and even before that, a lot of clubs in the North Shore, they don't have sound systems. And it's like I try to tell the clubs, guys, the sound system is so important because then the bands that come into your club are going to go through your good system. They're always going to sound good. Whether if you have a band that shows up and doesn't have a good sound system, they don't sound good.
Yeah.
The people will go, they don't sound good. Well, they don't know it's the sound system.
Yeah.
So I'm always kind of getting on clubs to get sound system. I worked with a club called Allman Brothers back in the day. And the first thing I did was say, and they listened to everything I said. I said, get a PA in here. We found a used PA for $500. It sounded fantastic. And there was a concrete wall behind the stage. And it was just, ears were bleeding. Yeah. So I said, guys, go on Craigslist, find an old theater curtain. Well, we found one for $50. Beautiful red velvet. And we put it across the back wall. Oh my God. The sound just, people were like, and I see some clubs today that, I won't say names, but I'm going to drive over and give them I'm going to give them some curtains for their windows, because it's like, guys, do you wonder why your people don't want to see you play? you gotta nurture musicians too. The club's got to nurture musicians and give us good sound. And unfortunately, right now, that's just not happening. There's only one place that I even know of that's, a few places in the city, yes, but in the suburbs, just
it's pretty brutal.
It is pretty brutal. It is pretty brutal.
Is so bright and so loud, and
I won't even play this one particular club because like last time I played there, people were like, "What?" And I was like, "Huh?" And the next day, it was like, B flat the whole day. It was just ringing in my ears, a nice loud B flat. And that nurtures. In this club, Allman Brothers, when I worked with them, they did amazing because all the bands that played there goes, "This place sounds great." Well, me and we got rugged for the little stage that we had. Just did a few things to make it sound good, man. It's about sound,
Yep. Yeah, it's all about the sound, the feel, the vibe, everything else. I mean, that's that I've my entire life has revolved around that since I was 15 years old, and now at the ripe old age of 50. I'm like, we'll do a listening session afterwards, but man, it's just fine tuning things, not only to sound good and articulate and to be able to hear the filigree between the notes, but to just feel good about it. I mean, there's definitely a tipping point.
Right.
I can hear everything you're doing. Can we stop?
Hear it. And I had heard about you from other people in town saying, "Oh man, you got to go to Tim Schroeder. He cares about the sound so much. I got to meet this guy." So my friend Dirk eventually gave you your number. And because I was like, man, someone who's so into sound, and of course Tim's been doing amazing work on my amps for me and my pedals and guitars, and brought me to a new level of sounding good for myself. I've been tweaking the amps that I use, and I know you would lower the bias on some of my stuff, little things that I love, and just brought me my tone better. I'm all about the tone, and I know I heard that you really care too, and that's I know from working with you. I mean, Tim is using oxygen-free solder and stuff that I never even knew about. But that's why your stuff sounds amazing, is because the care that you put into it, and sonically, that's what it's about, guys. I'll see a lot of people, I'm always trying to help people, and I see a lot of people looking at certain amplifiers and stuff. I'm like, guys, spend that little bit more to get a little bit better sound. It's going to matter. If the music is what you love, spend your money on it.
Yeah.
If you care about, we all work hard. What are we working for if we don't buy ourselves something once in a while?
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy another guitar on the way home. I'm actually got a buying freeze.
I remember you said that after the camera.
Yeah, I know. I'm on a buying freeze. I bought so much stuff. But I really admire your dedication to sound. And the first time I heard the Schroeder amps, I was just blown away, and all this stuff. And man, there's not a lot of people like you who really, there's less people, are starting to care about this stuff.
Yeah. I've always found a way to do it, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all I've ever cared about. And I can make knockoffs of blackface whatevers, and make 10 times the amount of money I do, but it's just not what I'm interested in. It's not to say they don't have a place in the world. It's just not my place.
That's not your place. Well, you guys, Jeff Beck's using your pedals, and you got the good guys. I read an interesting thing about Tom Schultz getting the same thing like you did, like that he got an order one day for the what was his guitar pedal?
Yeah,
and it said Jeff Beck on it, and he said, "That's when I knew I was doing something right." He was like, "Jeff Beck's ordering this one." He's like, "Just give it to Jeff."
Yeah.
I know you
Rock
had
Man.
The Rock Man.
Yeah.
I wonder where those things are. I wonder how they sound today. I bet you they still sound good.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're making all that stuff, and you're making the world a better sounding place.
I'm trying.
And then nothing wrong with that, man. Let's have a good sounding world.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I think our time is coming to an end here, so
thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for the question.
Truly a pleasure.
It's an honor to be asked about anything in my life, and
of course.
And boy, the time went quick.
Yeah. So, where can people hear you these days? Where can people see you?
Let's see where. Well, I started this Lonesome Guitar Rangers thing on Facebook that I was doing during COVID for 53 weeks. I did shows acoustically from my living room.
Yeah.
Just picking any songs I could play. But we're playing. Let's see, we're playing the Toadstool here in Chicago, and on July 3rd, we're playing right down the street here at Northfield Market Days on July 27th, and we're playing the Wood Nickel. I'm still working on the date, so we're playing some clubs around. Yeah. I'm just doing a lot of privates these days, a lot of private gigs with the band, and a lot of private acoustic shows, because that's what seems to be what people want in the summer. They like me to, like last summer with COVID, I would set up and there'd be little pods of people.
Sure.
But people still want that, so I'm still keep busy. And then I'm starting to get ready to record some new stuff for a new album. I'm 10 years since my last record. It's just
all right. It's time.
So yeah.
You must have a lot of things in the hopper.
I got the 2 recorurs ready to go, but I'm gonna try to put it down to 1 and try to keep all the songs in the key of A off of it, because I think I have too many songs in the key of A. So I gotta put the cape on if I'm making the key of B.
Get that flat fifth in there.
Yeah, get the flat fifth.
Yeah. Right on. All right. Well, and me, I guess. So if anybody wants to know more about what I do or who I am, that kind of thing, you can actually just call me. I answer the phone. Which surprises people, which is interesting.
Many guys of your caliber answer the phone, right?
So I love talking to people. I love helping people out. I sell hi-fi stuff. I build amps. I do a little bit of everything that keeps me happy. And if the day that I am not totally enthralled with waking up in the morning and coming out to my studio, that's the day.
That's the day it ends. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier what a nice setup you have here. They'll be able to have your beautiful studio here to come out and work at.
Yeah.
You got to have your space. You got to have your workspace.
For sure. So you can find me at schroederamplification.com, Tim at schroederamplification.com if you're feeling shy and you just want to shoot me an email. All of these live streams are kept for posterity or prosperity. Which one? We'll say posterity.
Yeah, posterity.
On my Schroeder Amplification Facebook, and better yet, Schroeder Vids is my YouTube channel, which has this and many more conversations. So I will see you again next time. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim.